The world doesn't think that the gospel can change your life, but we know that it can. And that's why we want you to hear these stories of transformation, stories of freedom, people getting free from sin and healed from sin because of Jesus. This is Death to Life.
She takes the keys to her car. She takes off her wedding ring and throws it at me and says, "I hate you. I don't want to be with you. I hate you." Basically, your key word here, what she said is, "You're too much like Jesus and I can't stand that."
Yo, welcome to the Death to Life podcast. My name is Richard Young, and this episode is with my man Josh. And this episode has got some wild stuff in it. It is definitely not for younger ears. Want to put that out there. There's some sad stuff, also beautiful stuff, because this is the Death to Life podcast. Man, Josh's testimony and what he has received is so beautiful. I'm not going to step on it. We're just going to get into that. And this is Josh's story from Death to Life. Buckle up, strap in. Love y'all. Appreciate y'all. Where do you feel like the Josh Groff story starts in regards to God, knowing who God is? And tell me that.
I would say, now just warning, I'm a bit of a crier when it comes to just talking about God. So at some point, if I
sorry, dude, we're canceling this podcast. There's no crying allowed.
I would say for me, and I'm sure you being raised Seventh-day Adventist, you can relate in some degree. But when you're raised Christian, it just is like it's just what you do. Like that is the norm for you. So I would say, like growing up, my parents were first generation Christians, so they both got saved. If you know what an Emmaus walk is, my father got saved on an Emmaus walk, and then my mother got saved at this Nazarene church in Grove City.
What's an Emmaus walk?
Emmaus walk, and I'm sure I'm not going to do it justice. It's basically it's an outreach where like you go on this little walk. Like I don't know, like I forget how long it is, and basically you hear a word or a message or whatnot, then they like give, I want to say, an altar call or whatnot, but it's just an outreach like walk is the best way I can describe it. It's more to that, but in a nutshell. So obviously was born. And my dad was in a ministry. If you know who Stephanie Gretzinger is and her family, she used to watch us as kids. So
Stephanie Gretzinger used to watch you as kids?
From Bethel, although she's no longer there. Yeah. That was,
man, her music has been such a blessing in my life, man. She's been.
Yeah.
You remember her?
Oh, no, I was a baby, but this is just like, we know their family. Their family's still here in Ohio, last time I checked.
That's cool.
Yeah.
Cool name drop. Stephanie Gretzinger.
Just throwing out celebs. She has no idea who I am. She probably don't remember me. But, so just kind of in the, evangelical kind of like circles. And then I'd say probably my first church was, now I'm going to name drop churches. I hope I'm allowed to do that. Was the Zion Christian Center here in Columbus. And so when you go there, my whole experience was the emphasis was on the gifts and, using your giftings. So like, that was pretty normal to me. It wouldn't have been odd to see a triple backflip from the top and then everyone speaking in tongues at once. Like this was just that kind of environment. So that was kind of my experience growing up. And then we went to Faith Life here in New Albany, Columbus, which was it like we just went from the gifts to the prosperity gospel. If you know Kenneth Copeland, then what Faith Life is if you're into that stuff. Went there, and then after that, we kind of just went cold turkey. We moved out away from the city, got in the country a little bit, and I would say around that time was probably when, for the first time, I had at least started to kind of have a relationship with God, kind of, because before it was all like, yeah, like Christianese. Like if you know, you can speak Christianese. So I went to a Lighthouse Christian Academy, which is a missionary prep school. I think it's a Baptist missionary prep school, and they gave me like anyone who's done like any type of seminary, like it's very basic, like New Testament studies, the life of Christ. These are like thing you go through, just learning about Scripture, going through Scripture, and I really enjoyed that. Like I really enjoyed the knowledge of understanding Scripture. That was something I enjoyed. So for there, I'd say that was my first little introduction to, man, like getting, not just knowing like about God, but like maybe getting in the Word and understanding a little bit more about God. I hope that was a long response, but I hope that somewhat answered.
No, man, that's super cool. Who was he? Was he in regards to you? Like, was he happy with you? How did he feel about you in your mind?
I knew he loved me. Like, I think a lot of people get to that point. They know God loves me. To be honest about it, Rich, I just didn't think about it that much. Like, to be honest with you, like it didn't take up, I was so young, man. Like I was 16, 17, was just not focused on necessarily that. I hadn't really started to dip into like pornography or like lust at that point. So in regards, I was a pretty sheltered kid at that point. So to be honest with you, man, I never really thought about it. I eventually did, but not like growing up.
How did you feel about yourself then, like growing up?
I mean, I knew I was self-centered. I mean, I realize that now, but I thought I was a good person, man. I thought I was a good
Wait, so you
boy.
didn't know you were self-centered then?
No, I didn't.
No, okay.
Ignorance is bliss. Maybe if I would have sat back and really laid it out, I might have, but so, yeah.
I think so much of that is just being a kid. I mean, kids are self-centered by just
nature. Yeah.
Their whole life is about them. They're not taking care of anybody.
Yeah.
They're just trying to get theirs. Like I watch my kids like at breakfast. Like they're just trying to get theirs. Like I want the last bite of peaches. No, I want the last bite of peaches. They don't have to take care of anybody but themselves.
My goals,
so that's
my goals. Yeah, my goals, what I'm trying to do today, what is not going to benefit me today. It's all like when I woke up, like that was my schedule for that day.
Yeah, 100%. And so it's not strange to have that mindset at all.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So you're 16, 17, you're learning about the life of Christ in this school. Mm-hmm. I feel like from our conversations, you have a natural inclination for learning. Am I wrong? Am I right?
I wouldn't say it comes easily, but I mean, I enjoy knowledge. Not that if it has its proper place. Yes, I like knowledge. I think it's interesting.
So that kind of made it fun for you.
Yeah, it was fun. I didn't. To be fair, just looking back, I don't know even what I understood. I probably just knew a bunch of facts. But
so what happened? What happened next then?
Well, I got my first girlfriend. And when I got my first girlfriend, you gotta understand, Rich, like my parents were pretty strict. The burden that they put on us, not saying we didn't need it. I'm just saying that the burden was pretty heavy on us. So like, probably good rules, but you weren't allowed to have a girlfriend to a certain point. Just a bunch of rules. So it made it very hard, but I didn't give a crap about that, Rich, because I wanted what I wanted. And so I went and I started dating this girl.
What were the rules? Like no girlfriend until what, 17, 16?
I believe it's hard to break down a rule for them. It was kind of more of like when they said so. But when they said so could have been, it was just 18 would be the bare minimum where they even consider, I'd say. So yes, that was the rule. Like no phone till you're graduate high school. But we won't let you graduate high school until you're 18. So basically, no phone. And then when you graduate high school, you can get your phone. And then when you get done with those two, you can go get your license. So what
do you think about all that, man? I have kids. My daughter's turning 11 this week. What do you think like that did to you? Because I know I had the similar rules. I think mine was I didn't get my license till I was 17. I couldn't date till I was 17.
Yeah.
But it kind of just, I was a good kid, so I tried to keep by it. But I don't know if I would have been rebellious, what would have happened there?
Here's how I feel about it. None of these things are wrong if a parent puts this on them at all. It is regardless of what my parents did. I was meant to honor and obey my parents, and I wish I would have. I caused myself a lot more trouble than I had to because I didn't. So those rules are good. Like, they aren't wrong or right. But I would say for me, what it did because of my nature, and I had never at least renewed my mind to what was already in there, was just the fact of when you are surrounded by people who have everything that you want, it makes it very, very hard on like a 17-year-old when all your friends are like 17, 18, doing whatever they want. And not necessarily like they're doing bad stuff, but just, they have it. So it made it very hard on me in my current state because I wanted all those things. So I would just say, I think it depends on the child too. I don't think there's like an overall like plan, one size fits all. So I would just say, it's a form of law, and children do need a form of law. And I can't say it really hindered me that much. So, yeah, I mean, I think it's...
Yeah, man, like my kids, God love them. My son prayed this morning after worship. My daughter loves God, but also they need Jesus. Like, they're kids. They don't know anything. Like, they just don't know anything, man.
Doing what they do.
At some point, they're going to need it for themselves, right?
Yes, they do. And that's what I will give credit to my parents, because I want to honor them, is they taught me what ended up helping me long term, what was right and what was wrong. And they gave me a real good understanding of what the law was like because of how severe their law was. Now, not like Mosaic law severe, but like, oh God.
Right. So that didn't stop you from getting your first girlfriend.
Oh,
did they know about it?
They eventually found out about it. So this is so got my first girlfriend. Honestly, Rich, great. Like, when I say great girl, like, she was on where I was at and where she was at. I don't know. Like, thank goodness that I got removed from her life, because this is when we were in school. Like, we were in school and we were homeschooled, but there's these things called co-ops. But it's like school for a day. So whatever, we'd see each other, whatever, on like school or whatnot. And this is where I would say, I started, being 17, sold under the flesh, knowing what was right, but not being able to do, is when we started, like, experimenting, like touching and those kind of things. And it wasn't, no one starts out, Rich, like, oh man, I'm going to go do this. It's usually a little by little. Some people do, I suppose, but little by little. And then it becomes more and more and more and more. And then you're at a place where you're like, uh-oh, but thank the Lord that she had enough wisdom to stop me from going where I wanted to go in that relationship. That eventually just kind of led to the end of that relationship. My parents were just irate with me because I wasn't going to listen to them, and I just give them lip service. Like, okay, Mom, okay, Dad, you got it. Then we'll go.
Did you know that you weren't trying to listen to them, or were you trying to, and when it got to, like, when the mood was right, you're like, I really want to do this thing?
I would, like, what do you mean when the mood is right? Like what do you mean? Like,
when they're saying, son, this is not good, this is bad, you're like, yeah, y'all are probably right. But then when you're in the situation, you're like, oh, but I really want to do this thing. Or when they're talking to you and they're like, son, this is wrong, not right, you're like, y'all don't really know what you're talking about. Which one was that?
They had no idea about the touching or anything. They thought I was suit and tie. I would never kind of kid. But man, Rich, when I tell you, my heart was so rebellious. I had such a distaste for my parents. I thought they were so stupid for what they thought. And then I look back and I'm like, I was so stupid,
That's how it works, right?
Yeah. And then I look back and I'm like, gosh. So I would say it was just more of just a total outright rebellion with just a face of, I do what's right.
Sure.
So, but the minute I was given even the slightest opportunity, I would take it.
I hear you. I'm thinking about Romans 8, where it says that the mind that is set on the flesh does not submit to God's law. Indeed, it cannot. And when I'm thinking about the law, I think about it more, not in like the Western way of like a legal thing, like don't do this thing, but more like the law of gravity. Like if I drop this, it will fall to the ground. If you are participating in things that only married people should participate in, it's just going to bring destruction. It's just going to bring sadness. Like that's the law.
Mhm.
But when your mind is set on the flesh, it does not submit to that. It can't even see that that's going to be a problem. You're like, these people don't know what they're talking about. This is a dumb rule. Why? It's not submitting to God's law. It cannot even see that participating in this action will cause destruction. And I see it more that way than just saying, oh, you say don't do that, I'm going to do it anyway. Not submitting to God's law is more like not even seeing that this is a problem.
Yes, and I think I would agree with you. I think, Rich, that we are inclined to what, like, for instance, I was taught, and I'm sure you were too. Like, don't do that. Like, man, if you have sex before marriage, you are, or not that purity culture is necessarily wrong in a whole, but the idea of like that was the end all be all, baby. Like, if you did that, you're done. Like that was a bad one.
And my parents had both waited, and they were very proud of it. As I'm not trying to think, as
Wow,
they
keep
should
it on
be.
me.
I guess like it was just like really like it. They were very happy in their life and in their marriage, and I think one of the reasons is because they had submitted to God's law. They realized, oh, this will be bad, and so they talked to us like, this is not a great thing, you know. And it wasn't like they were beating us over the head with it, but we just knew, like you were saying, what was wrong and what was right. I think that was the reason why I was able to abstain, not because I felt that from my parents. I knew that they were right, even though, man, I wanted to, but I wanted much more to not mess up in my life. I guess that was why, the fear of messing up rather than the wisdom of God.
Yeah, absolutely. And I want to clarify, I did not go all the way with my first girlfriend. Gonna get myself in trouble here. No. But
praise God, she broke up with you because you were trying.
She got rid of me because I was
smart lady
indeed. So yeah, that kind of began, and then I don't know. I had some of my. This is where I would say when maybe that facade I was putting up started to crack a little. I had one of my best friends at the time. He was dating a girl, who is Brianna now. And he was dating this girl. And it's like when it's just it's not like when I saw Brianna, I was like, oh man, like I really like. No, it was just like someone that was there, like just another person, like Bill's girlfriend from school. Like it wasn't really anyone. It was just someone. So that kind of happened. And that's just kind of how I knew Brianna. And so I had broken up with this previous girl. Was still living with my parents at the time. So if I remember correctly, they had broken up, and oh man, was I crafty, Rich. Man, when I look back, I was like, I was such a snake. And I look back, man, and I was like consoling my friend over here while he was like really broken up about this girl he just lost. But you know what I was doing behind his back? Talking to his girl. Talking to the
DMs.
Yeah. Like the snake I was. And so whatever, that's kind of happened. And I was able to hide that for a good bit. But then one time, my wife posted a picture, like this, she was my girlfriend at the time, but she posted a picture of, this is gonna make you laugh, but I had my ears pierced. And she pierced my ears. She posted a picture of the piercing in her bathroom, and well, they saw that, and then it all went crazy from there.
Like your buddies or your parents, or
my buddy. My parents knew that I liked this girl. Like they knew that. They didn't like that I liked her, but they were like, what are we gonna do? He's like kind of like 17, 18. We're kind of running out of options here. So
your bro, when he saw that, what was that like?
They were pissed because I'm real good friends. I'm probably better friends with his older brother, and this was his younger brother. So yeah, they were pissed. I mean, we didn't talk for probably a year and a half after that. like, yeah, so that didn't go well. So that was kind of like the craziest start with Brianna. It just started. My whole relationship with Brianna didn't even start out right.
Mhm.
Looking back, so yeah, I mean that's kind of like that introduction.
Yeah, so you're dating her. You talked earlier about pornography hadn't come into the game yet when you're starting to learn about it. At this point, when you're getting a little older, it seems hard to stay away from. Like, at what point did pornography start taking over?
I would say the first time I was ever exposed to it was 15. My grandfather had a bunch of old, like, dirty car like soft pornography. So like a bunch of like dirty like car magazines, like in a box, like way in his garage. Like, and I don't mean like my grandpa loved the Lord, but he got saved when he was like 45. So like
Mhm.
he still had. I hope that they that they were there back then.
Mhm.
So I found those. That was my first introduction to it. And I think the whole reason I was able to stay away from that was just simply because I knew how much it would hurt my girlfriend at the time. At that point. So yeah, pornography. I would say pornography probably started. It kept me away from it, and I got to add this in real quick. Is my parents got a divorce basically because my father got caught with pornography, and that kind of like right then. So from that point on, like that marriage just absolutely got obliterated from that point on, sadly. So for that reason alone, that kept me away from it for because
How
I
old were
got
you
this
when that happened?
like 16, 17.
Oh wow.
So I got to see a firsthand. It was an extreme case, but a firsthand of what could happen when sin, specifically in the form of lust and pornography, enters into a relationship. So got to see that, and that kept me away for a bit. Um, and I can't exactly say how it happened, or I don't even remember really the first time I looked at like hard porn. It probably would have been, I probably would have been 18, 19, yeah, probably 18. Yeah, 18. That's probably when I started, and it was under control. I
Sure.
controlled it through discipline at first. It was every once in a while. Usually when, I was feeling bad about myself and, Brianna wasn't treating me right or something happened. And that was just my comfort. That's what I go to for comfort.
Yeah. How was it going with Brianna?
So Brianna cheated on me at the very beginning of our relationship um, with some dude from her work. And that was like very beginning of a relationship. I had an idea of like I should forgive her because Christ forgave her, but my reaction was more so of so when I found that out, I knew who this guy was. So uh, one night, this is a perfect image of that double life, man. As I was at Bible study, and so I left right out of the Bible study, went right over to that guy's work, and I ordered a large lemonade and I went up to him over there and just like splashed in his face, and then basically got pushed out of the Chick-fil-A. So, oh, did I say
You
Chick-fil-A? I meant
splashed the
yeah,
whole lemonade, like all of it?
yeah, yeah, just kind of shot it in his face. Really not cool. Really feel bad about that. So yeah, and then I whipped on out of there. Um, so that was
So let me ask you this question. Were you and Brianna already participating in things you shouldn't be at this point?
not really, not outside. I mean, yes, probably, but we hadn't gone like it was just like kissing and just like
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
like hugging, like that kind of thing. Nothing like more like making out, I suppose would be the word, but nothing like outside of that.
So when this hit you, like when she done this thing that she shouldn't be doing, like were you like what did that make you feel or believe about yourself? Do you know if you were thinking more about yourself or were you like cuz it seems like us guys we tend to compare everything and build up all of these stories in our minds and like the enemy puts that on us to make us feel like we're nothing and makes us were you experiencing that or were you just hurt?
I wasn't experiencing that. I was just angry. That was always the way I dealt with things. I was just irate, just angry, jealous as all get out. And not really at her, which is so funny because we always put the blame on the person that isn't close to us sometimes is like, oh man, I can't believe he did that. Man, I'm going to go do this, this, and this to him because it ain't right what he did to me. And it becomes like that. So no, it really had nothing to do with my value. Like I never saw like myself valuable differently. I was just angry. Just the best way I can put it. Betrayed.
Was she remorseful?
Yeah, she was remorseful. She said like whatever. I found out like 2 months after the initial event happened. So yeah, she was remorseful. She said she was sorry. She said that I can't continue in this relationship unless I let you know that that's what happened. And so yeah, she was remorseful.
So then it went better after that, or how did it start going?
Oh, well, no. But
you're like, yeah, I guess. No, not at all.
In that regard, yes. In the sense of that didn't happen again. But so what this did to me, Rich, is because of that jealousy. Is I don't how I explain this is I was like, I want to make sure I get her before anyone else gets her. And I know that's a very wicked way to think, but that was my thought process at the time of, well, if she's already doing this with other dudes, I want to make sure that I get everything I can out of her before, that actually happened. Not that I thought it would. I can't really explain. It's just my very self-centered mentality.
Yeah, man, absolutely. I think that in some ways, or you tell me if this was your experience, you felt like she owed you something.
Yes, I did, but I was also trying to self-preservation.
Sure.
Well, I'm just going to get everything I can, and then whatever happens. And so what I did to do that is I manipulated and just did like I'm not. I'll let her tell her story, but I manipulated. I eventually we started sleeping together, and we felt whatever bad or whatnot. But once that awoke in me, that thing that was flesh, sin in me, was out of control. There was no stopping it at that point. I wanted to stop. Romans 7, the man who knows what's right, but yet this thing in me is so strong, it overpowers my what I know is right. So I find it was just overpowering is the way I put. I remember sitting at the end of the bed, Rich, and being like, I would do anything to be free from this. I just remember having that thought. Sorry, trying to shed tears.
Well, you're good.
Whew. All right. So so I just remember having that thought and just being caught. So what we tried to stop so many times, I was like, we need to do this. We need to stop. Like, I even sadly even went down the route of, you can't wear this because that'll make me feel this way. I was trying everything, man, to get free, to stop doing this because I felt so horrible. I knew the law of God. I knew it was wrong. I just couldn't. I was living condemned really bad. I was teaching kids at Bible study and then going to sleep with my girlfriend after, because knowledge doesn't ever actually change anything. Knowledge is just knowledge. It's understanding it and receiving it, and it's actually what allows that to happen. Yeah. So I had that whatever. So double condemning myself.
Man, I think the only way to get out of that practically is to break up. I don't think like when you're so infatuated with somebody and then you're connected to them chemically, like in such a powerful way, that's not really an option anymore. You're and that's why sex is so powerful. I mean, because it's built to fuse this thing together. It's like built, like the purpose is good. It's supposed to tie man and wife together.
But what happens when
when you're when you're not man and wife,
it's problematic.
Just like we're tied together, but we're not.
Yeah,
like we can leave at any point. And that
the only thing I would add to that is breaking up, although it might temporarily slow down the sin that was happening for the sake of lack of sin. If my heart had never changed, nothing would have changed.
No, absolutely.
Yeah.
So, nobody knows about this. You're keeping it secret, but like you're just
Yeah, I'm like, so
condemned.
condemned. So this is where my initial introduction to life begins, where I remember I bought a house and Braden lived down the street from me, and I get a call from my guy, and he goes, "Hey man, will you come over here?" And let me tell you, Rich, at this point in time, I look up to Braden big time. I tell him now, I said, back when I used to look up to you. So like Braden
I
calls
look
over.
up to Braden now, and he's like 10 years younger than me.
I know.
And I look up to
I still do. I just give him crap. I can't let, I got to keep him in his place. Don't want to get
Yeah,
back.
right. If you're listening to this, Braden, we don't care about you.
Yeah. So, he calls me over. I'm sure he's showing you that funny
The
cup thing, the cup
Yeah.
thing he does, which is freaking hilarious. But so he like shows that little cup thing. Do you want me to explain it or?
Sure. Yeah. Explain it.
So he has a clean cup and he has a dirty cup. And he goes, like, this is what, you believe you are. And then he has a clean cup and he's like, this is what Christ says you are. And then he like takes like some coffee grounds or something and sprinkles it into the cup. He's like, did this change anything about you? And like, that's the gist of it. And the rhetorical answer is, no. And that's basically what he showed me. And I remember thinking, because I'm sure you're probably similar, Rich, in the sense of anytime someone ever tries to lay down doctrine, I become instantly skeptical immediately. Not just because there is so much false doctrine out there that unfortunately, when true doctrine is actually spoken, it's initial to have that guard up. At least it was for me.
I think before I knew scripture, I might be like that. Now, because I feel like I know a little bit, I'm much more open to hearing what someone has to say, because I remember when I didn't know it, that I would be on guard, and then it changed my life. So now I'm like, oh, well, let me hear you out. There's no fear in me.
Absolutely. Well, I guess it's maybe a little fair to say that at this point in my life, I was debating, like, not like big debates or nothing, but I was pretty regularly getting into it with Calvinist and Reformed people about beliefs, specifically like the doctrine of election. And I even got a tattoo on my arm because of that itself.
Because you were in a debate? You got a debate tattoo?
Not a debate. It was just something that I was investing my time in, of just, debating with just Calvinist and Reformed folk who, and anyone who knows that, tulip, undivided election's a big part of their doctrine. And so whether it has nothing to do with it, but I got Titus 2:11 on my arm, which is for by the grace of God, salvation's offered to all men. So like at that point in my life, knowledge was in a sense what I considered my Christianity. I guess maybe would be the best explanation for that.
And that puffs up.
It does puff up. That's what Paul says. And yeah, so it puffed up. So Braden comes here. I like the guy too much to get into it with him. So I'm like, okay, whatever. I'm like, sure, Braden. Yeah, like, hey, man, that's really good. Thank you. Go home, man. And I can't explain it, Rich, but I knew that I had started to believe it just a little bit. I might not have been all the way there yet. There were some family problems that were going on at the time, but regardless, I wasn't all the way there yet, but I started to accept some of the truth of who I was in Christ, of being right before God and understanding that, holy, blameless, and pure because of faith and what Jesus did.
Can we talk about that for a second? What a weird place to be in, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like you get a tattoo on your arm because you believe, like, what was the purpose of it being offered to everyone? Why was that verse so important?
It was just it's just not necessarily like, it's just a verse that I really liked, that I used a lot. It was a large part of, I guess, what I would bring up. It was just a verse I liked. I mean, it could have been any number of verses, but that's the one I picked.
So you're arguing, debating. You're also a teacher. You're teaching, but in your own personal life, you can't seem to get out of your own way. And then your buddy guy you look up to, who is your girlfriend's brother, is like, you're clean, my man. And you're like, I don't know if I can believe that.
Because what did I just do there, Rich? What did I just do when he told me I was clean?
You thought about what you'd been doing.
I looked to my works to see if that was my actions made me clean, but that had nothing to do with it. I looked at myself to judge myself according to myself. But regardless, I know this is not a doctrine testimony. This is a
no, man, share it, man. People need to understand. Like, if you're just like, I've considered myself clean, and you're all like continuing in sin, just continue, like that's not going to line up, right?
So we can clarify, when I say I'm pure, what we mean by that is me and my own works and my own actions. I've made myself pure because I'm so good. No one's saying that. No one's saying that. We are simply saying, because of what Christ accomplished on the cross, apart from our works, he presents us clean, holy, and without blemish. And if Christ cleans something and then presents it before God, 1 Colossians, I believe, 1:22. And so if Christ cleans something, I'm going to take that as Christ cleaned me and presented me as pure, holy, and above reproach before God. Like, I'm going to take that at its face value, and believe that about myself. In the minute you start going, well, I did that, I did this, I did that, so I can't be clean, is the minute you fall back into a works-based mentality of going, well, my actions decide who I am. And you go back to Romans 5, it's not actions that decide who we are, it's birth.
Yeah. Colossians 1:22, you brought that up. You're presented holy, blameless, and above reproach. 2 chapters later in Colossians 3 says, because you have died with Christ, therefore put to death what is earthly in you, sexual immorality, impurity, passion. So you're presented clean, and then you stop participating in the former life. You don't stop participating in the former life to then be clean. You are cleaned first.
Absolutely.
To then stop participating in your formal life.
And I gotta shout, we're just gonna keep dropping Dan Muller's name until he gets on here. Dan Muller likes to say that you become the tree before you produce the fruit. You just don't try to produce the fruit. And I would agree with that. So where were we?
So he says you're clean. You're like, you don't know what's going on with me, my boy. But then you go home and you're like, is there a chance that this could be true?
Yes, and I would say that large part of this influence was because I looked up to Braden so much, of me not brushing it off. Thank goodness the Lord used him to soften my heart. And so, whatever, I hear this, so forget it was like a couple days later or whatnot, but I go to sleep with my girlfriend. And you know, Rich, it wasn't the same, because before I had an out. Which is, this is who I am, I'm going to try my best. But now, instead of living condemned, I felt that conviction of, you're righteous, holy, and pure while you're doing this. And it did not feel good. That felt real out of place. So yeah, that was the last time I ever did that. And
like, thanks, Braden, you ruined this thing for me.
No, I needed Braden to get me out of there. At that point, I was considering telling someone so that I could stop sinning, just turn myself in, per se. But yeah, so I got that, and man, after that, man, I went full on righteousness in Christ mode. And
did Brianna know like where your mind was at, or were you just like, hey, I'm just kind of done with this?
She always knew we wanted to quit. I just told her, babe, we're holy and pure. I said, this doesn't belong. This doesn't belong in what I believe now. I'm like, because we're pure, I don't want to sin anymore. I think that was maybe how I put it, is I don't want to sin because I'm pure. Because those who hope in Christ purify themselves as Christ is pure. 1 John 3. But yeah, so that was, I think, my initial, at least at the time, understanding that I gave her.
How did that conversation go? Was she like, okay, cool?
I think it was really tough for her, Rich, because like, not me, just is she valued herself off men. So when a man showed her attention, that's how she got value. specifically like when lust is what it was. When a man lusted her, that was where she was getting her value. So when I stopped showing her that lustful intent, it was a bit of a curveball, because it's like, well, that's not how you show love, because the way she experienced it is, if you love me, then you desire me in a lustful way. I didn't desire her in a lustful way. In fact, I probably loved her for the first time ever because I didn't want anything from her. I just loved her because I loved her. That was it.
Mm-hmm.
So I think let's think about the gospel, man. It just flips everything on its head. Is for her, that was hard to comprehend, I believe.
So you did a 180 there, and it was just really off this understanding that Brayton had given you. Did you go back and ask more questions or learn more, or how long was it just off of this idea that you're clean?
Well, here's what I did, Rich, is I heard a teaching, and get this will blow your mind. I went into the Bible and I started to seek it out for myself to see if it was actually correct. Because if I'm experiencing something, that doesn't necessarily make it true, because that's not my foundation for truth. My foundation for truth is the Word of God. So if I feel a certain way, I got to go and make sure and figure out why that happened according to the Word of God. And as I started going to Scripture, I was like, yeah, I guess he kind of does say that we're righteous and holy and pure. I was like, I guess it does. I don't know why I never caught that before. Because, sometimes it was just I was melon-headed about it. Like, yeah, righteous. Pass over it. Keep reading. I was more reading the Bible before of like, man, I need to do better than that. I need to do better than that. I should probably stop doing that. But now I was reading it from the position of someone was right before God. And I was like, wow. I'm like, it's all over the place, man. It's like everywhere I go, I'm seeing righteous, holy, pure, sanctified, like justified, whatever translation you use.
It's amazing how that lens switch changes your life. Like,
wild.
like before we read Scripture, and like, it was like, this could be us if we get our act together.
Exactly.
And then it was like, no, this is true about you. Do you believe it?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And that's the lens that changes everything.
It does. Yeah.
So you're learning, where are you reading mostly? Was it just in the epistles, Romans, Colossians, Ephesians, Galatians?
I would say, if I can remember, I'm trying to remember. I would probably say it was probably like Ephesians. I wasn't really into Romans that much, although this last year I feel like I mastered in Romans. But yeah, I would say I just kind of like reading, not just more like Ephesians and like those smaller books, Colossians, Thessalonians, like maybe the smaller books. You see that a lot in those books.
And that was just building in you.
It was adding to the Scripture as I had already accumulated, because I had accumulated Scripture before, but now I look back at that and it's coming to life probably for the first time. And it's like, okay, so like I know this and this means that, so I'm going to go back and read this. I'm like, this meant this the whole time, but I wasn't even like there. Like, so I guess it just went back in and started to reread what I already understood or thought I did to try to get a better picture. Maybe the best way to describe it.
How was the relationship going then as this is going on?
Pretty good, honestly. I mean, we're just having a good time, we're hanging out with the family, doing whatever like you're supposed to do. I can't really we just hang out with like our friends or whatnot, and then it was
did
normal,
the weight of sex and all that after, did you feel like relief?
Yeah, man, I felt freed. When you live condemned for so long, man, you get uncondemned. You can walk around with confidence, knowing that I'm right with God, and it has nothing to do with my works. Although my works are evident of what I believe.
Mercy. So then what happened then, my man?
But then we got married.
When did you decide to get engaged? Was that like a long time coming, or?
I got married 3 months. I proposed to her 3 months after she turned 18. The only reason I didn't propose to her when she turned 18 is because she didn't want me to propose to her when she turned 18. So I was 18. I had my own house. I had my car. I had my job. We were set to get married. That was the whole reason I took those steps. So as soon as she turned 18, I proposed to her, 3 months after, I suppose. And then we got married, I believe, in about June. So I proposed in March and got married in June.
Man, you guys in Ohio, you guys are like everyone on this podcast from Ohio got married.
We don't mess around, Rich.
Like 7 years old. Like, what in the world?
Yeah.
Gotta get a early start on things, okay? So if since Savannah and Braden got married at such a young age, and your families were all cool with this?
Yeah, I mean, I would say in the homeschooled Christian community in Columbus, it's more abnormal to see someone get married past 25. I would say that's abnormal. Of the friends I all grew up with, I'd say there is maybe 2 or 3 that aren't married yet. I mean, it's pretty normal if you're even somewhat relatively capable of getting married.
So have you seen blessings in that in the early, that people getting married at a younger age?
We haven't yet gotten to see the long-term effects of these. But I will say, man, a lot of my friends have kids now that I was hanging out with when I was 17. And yeah, I mean, I think there are benefits in either way you decide to go. Have your kids early? Well, your kids will take care of you when you're older. Probably sooner. If you have them a little later, you'll probably be a little bit more prepared, but just working a little bit and later, just the payoff.
And that's the thing, man. People think that they get ready for marriage. Now, in some sense, getting married at 15 or 16, like I'm against that. But
I would say that's illegal.
Yeah. But marriage is what actually prepares you for being married. It's kind of like all the advice you get before you're pregnant. Like one day you guys will get pregnant and everyone's going to give you advice and you're going to be like, okay, cool. And then you come home from the hospital with that baby and then you're like, well, what do we do now? That's when you actually start learning what to do. It's kind of like getting married or having the baby prepares you for the thing that you're now in. So I see a lot of benefit in it. I'm sure there's different problems, but I see, and I mean, I got married at 24, so I can't, like, it wasn't an experience.
24.
Yeah, old man. But
you might have to edit this out. Rich. Hate to keep creating more work for you, but my dad's 5 years older than you.
Your dad is 5 years older than me. That's wow. So you get married and what did you think? Like, smooth sailing? Now we can have sex again. Now,
I was living free, Rich. I mean, I don't even know how to explain it, but like, marriage had nothing to do with my life's purpose at the point. Like, obviously being a good husband, like I love my wife, like obviously those things. But like, I mean, at this point, Rich, I was free. I was concentrated, I'd say mostly on just, talking about freedom, going and living a godly life was where all my focus was at. Marriage was I don't want to say like next step. It was important to me. I wanted to get married to Brianna. I love Brianna. But it was like, okay, I'm just going to get married. And then, my goal doesn't change. Like, when Paul speaks of, it's better not get married for the sake of ministering the gospel. Like for me, I was like, well, I understand that, but I'm just going to get married and still administer the gospel because, if you do well, if you get married, you do better if you don't. So yeah, so that was just kind of me. We were getting married. I was excited to get married. I was like, here we go, man. We're going to go, just have a great marriage. It's funny, dude. You go and you're like, man, we're going to have a great marriage. We're going to be like this. I know what Christ has done in me. I said, everything's going to be great and awesome.
Yeah, man. So is that what happened?
Well, I would say, let's see, we got married in June. So we got to about Christmas and things were going great on all accounts. I mean, when you don't have any kids, you're making money because you don't have any kids. Your expenses are low. So we're just living our life. We're going over, having Bible study, ministering the gospel, growing, learning a lot in scripture. And then I got laid off from my job, beginning of the year, about after we got married. So I went over and started another job where I would work there for 6 hours and then have to drive an hour somewhere else and work another 6 hours. So I can do that 5 days a week. So as you can imagine, I was exhausted, and wasn't super present.
Yeah.
Not because I didn't want to be, like, that's not a fun thing to do, but like, crap happens.
Yeah.
So, I'm doing that. And it's about, not too long after that, I'm playing with Braden, I was playing games with Braden, and I get a call from my wife who just got off work. And this is the first time that I realized, that's odd, but I'm not going to think into anything of it. So I get a call. And she's like, hey, I totaled my car. So I go down there and that's all done. I take care of the car. I talk to the police. I do all that. Then we get home and she's like, hey, my friends are picking me up. I'm leaving. And I go, what do you mean you're leaving? And she's like, yeah, I'm leaving. And her friend, come pick her up. I mean, what you going to do? Honestly, like, okay, well, I don't want you to leave, but if you don't want to listen to me, I mean, I don't know really what to do. Friends come pick her up. I don't see her for like 2 days. Well, just imagine like your wife just says, hey, bye, 2 days. Like everything's been cool up to this point.
Mm-hmm.
Very little communication, just leaves. I'm like, okay, that's weird. I said, but I was, I guess, 19 at one point. I said, I guess because she had just got her license after we got married. So she was just experiencing freedom from her parents for the first time, being married to me, which caused some, obviously, own things to walk through. So I'm like, whatever. It's just probably her just being, I mean, we're like 6 months married, right? It's like anything going on is so far from my mind at this point that I'm just like, whatever. So that is the first time maybe something was a little odd. And from that point forward, I'd say give it about 2 months. My wife is never home. She gets off work. She stays at her friend's Gabby's house, at least who I thought was Gabby at the time, and just was never home, dude. Was never home. And I was always working. I didn't have time to go and play bounty hunter on my wife. So that's going on. People start to obviously ask questions after 3 months, like, why am I the only one showing up at the family events? Where's Brianna? My family's like, I don't understand. Like, they're like, no one, I'll put it this way. It was so far from everyone's wants. Like, there's no way that could happen. Like, it's just like one of those things that's so far from, it seems so unrealistic. So whatever, I hear that. I go to sleep. I believe it's on my wife's birthday. I go to sleep. She's out with her mom, for her birthday. I go to sleep and I wake up and there's Braden at the end of my bed. I'm like, well, if Brianna's not here and Braden's at the end of my bed, that can't be good.
Yeah.
So he goes, hey man, Bree's been messing around on you. I didn't really know what that meant at the time, but I had a pretty good idea of what that meant at the time. So I go out there, whatever, and there's Brianna on the couch. It looked like she just recently been crying. So I say, hey, like, what's going on? Like, hey, what's wrong? And so whatever, Braden's like, I'm leaving. He's like, you guys have stuff to talk about. Like, thanks, man.
My gosh.
And so we're there and she tells me that she's been sleeping with this other dude for 3 months while we've been married. And that's where she's been this whole time, is living at his house with him. It was one of her managers from work. So that ensues, obviously there's heartbreak, like initially, man, like when you hear that, I mean, that's not a fun thing to just get hit with. So, whatever. This is where I got to be careful, man, is I'd always said, if Brianna cheats on me, that changes nothing about forgiveness in me. It doesn't change anything. I'm not called to forgive if it's easy. I'm called to forgive because I've been forgiven. And when you understand if we start going, well, I understand the weight of my sin, what it was before, the wretch that I was, and what I've been forgiven of, and what I've been moved into, is when you realize what you've been forgiven of, it's not very hard to forgive people of what they've done. And I always say that. Sorry,
Yeah, you're good, man.
So, yeah. So whatever, she told me she cheats on him. At first, there's a wow, like bombshell. I'm like, well, I forgive you. I said, I love you. I want to, just keep, I want us to, I don't want to say reconcile, but, I want to move forward, I guess is the word I'm looking for. So I want to move forward. And so her phone is on the table. So I grab her phone. Talk about a reaction. I grab that phone. I mean, you would have thought that Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. So then I forget exactly what led up to that point, but I said I wasn't giving her phone back. So she starts like straight up like assaulting me, bro. Like just swinging on me. Now, my wife's not very big or very strong necessarily. So it's not like I was in real danger here. But like she's hitting me and I'm like, stop, babe, stop. And so whatever, I'm not giving her phone back. And so she's like just wailing on me, man. I'm in the corner of my house and she's just, I mean, I got like both my hand, like my guard up and she's just like, I mean, hammering on me. And, so, I take her down and I'm on her and, for any grapplers on the podcast, I got her an outside saddle. And so,
Oh my God.
Which just stops you from basically being able to sit up in a nutshell. And so I got her there and her keys, Rich, are on the floor because they were in her pocket. And you know what's on her keys, Rich?
What is
A
on?
bottle of pepper spray.
Oh no.
So she grabs a bottle of pepper spray and I'm not kidding you, Rich. She point blank blasts me full on in the face with this can. So I am pepper sprayed on top of my wife, who I just found out was cheating on me, who was scratching, kicking, biting me. And I'm just at this point, like, I like not hurting her. I'm just controlling her at this point. And she's just flipping her wig. And so I grab the phone and I'm scared at this point that the police are going to show up because of the amount of noise she's making. And if police come up, I'm going to jail, which is fine. I respect that. And so I grab out my phone. I go, "Hey Siri," because I can't see. You remember? I'm like, "Hey Siri, call her mom." He calls her mom. And her mom on the phone, dude. She sees on the camera me on top of Bree, and Bree just like me holding Bree down and covered in pepper spray. And Bree screaming like she's.
You FaceTimed her?
No, yeah, I think so. I forget, but maybe maybe I'm remembering a little wrong, but maybe it was just a call. But regardless, she hears the commotion. And so I hear her mom screaming, "Oh my gosh, Keith. He was her dad, like, "You need to get over there." So she calls Braden and Elijah, my other brother-in-law. So they come to my house and I have Brianna's back, just controlling her. So they get there and, they're sitting there in the middle of my kitchen with glass everywhere because she knocked over, this vase we got from our wedding. So it's glass all over the floor. I'm pepper sprayed in my face. The dogs, I say, man, my dogs didn't protect me at all because they were just sitting there watching, man. And so whatever, we're there and they walk into that and, I wipe the pepper spray from my eyes. And it's just like, dude, the only way I can explain it, it's so surreal. Like, how is this happening? Like, talking about a bad day. I mean, it's like, oh my gosh. Like, so I'm there, get that out of my face. They're sitting down and they're just trying, man. They're just trying to, try and reason with Brianna, just trying to, trying their best to reason with her. But you can tell when someone rejects what they're presented.
Mm-hmm.
I don't mean that to be mean, but you can't force someone to accept something that they don't want to accept. There is a true rejection of the gospel.
Mm-hmm.
And I understand, I don't want it. Or I don't feel worthy. And you can't convince someone they're worthy if they are so necessarily convinced they're unworthy, because their faith is active there too, in the sense of they are choosing to believe something despite the evidence. There's never enough evidence for unbelief. So she's there or whatnot.
So you're trying to convince her of the gospel.
I had tried so many times before. At this point, man, I'm just recovering from getting assaulted and pepper sprayed. So her family's trying to minister to her. In the backstory, the day before that, Brayden had come over. She said, "I'm sorry that I've been so distant." This is where it really hurt, Rich. Is she said, "I want to be baptized into Christ and be reborn." So we baptized her in the tub, and she went and left and slept with her boyfriend that same night. So that was like the reality of I've been played for 3 months.
Mm-hmm.
And she would say that she's going to Bible study because she knew that I wouldn't tell her no.
Mm-hmm.
So you just really use something I love to try and just leverage me out of it, I suppose. So yeah, they're over there ministering to her. And so I'm just sitting there like, whatever, like she's clearly rejecting this. I told her I forgive you. I want this. This is forgotten. Like this is forgotten. This is like it never happened to me. I said, if you come back.
Mm. Mm.
Sorry, give me a second.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was just one of those, sorry. It was one of those moments where it was like what I believe. I'm sorry.
No, you're good.
I was scared this is happening.
Don't worry about it.
It was what I believe. When I say I believe, do I believe it? And that was the reality of that situation for me. Of I don't have another option. My option is to do what's right. There's no I can't do what's right and I can't do what's right. There's I can do what's right. And I mean, it was tough because at that point, and I wasn't really expecting there to be a turnaround, but like at that point, there didn't seem to be a turnaround, you know? But I was willing at that point to lose everything for the sake of doing right. At that point, it's just like, man, still kind of, I guess in shock, maybe the word I would say. So they all leave. I just remember, man, sitting there in bed next to her. I mean, just crying so hard. To see someone you love so much show such a hate towards you for nothing you did to them is a weird feeling. Something I hadn't experienced at that point. Like I experienced, like obviously people don't like you, like or whatnot, but like someone like I mean it's your wife, so it's like man, like I'm willing to I die daily for my wife in the sense of laying my life down, and to see someone who you've done nothing but right to just absolutely do the most unspeakable evil things to you for no reason except for that they wanted to, without having a good reason, I suppose. Not that there needs to be, but that was really weird for me because I'm sure you've heard before. Some people will be saying, come to Christ, and this wasn't why, but like people who say you come to Christ, man, and he'll change your life and everything will be good. I push back on that. I think we can scripturally show that that's strongly not the case, and experience is. Yeah, things got probably 10 times worse for me after I accepted Christ. But I will say, if I hadn't accepted Christ and gotten that revelation of freedom, I would have never been prepared for what was about to happen.
Right.
Because I wouldn't have dealt with it the same way I would have dealt with it. So I, cry myself to sleep that night because whatever. I'm just like, Christ is Lord, man. Christ is Lord. And I'm going to do what's right because Christ is Lord and because that's what I'm obligated to do. There's no option for me. There's no, I can do what's wrong and I can do what's right. When you've died to sin in your life for Christ, I don't count my life as even my own. I lay it down for Christ. And this is what I do. And I would rather suffer. I would rather suffer and lose everything for the sake of the gospel than be comfortable and, not have to deal with any of that.
Right.
And as I told Braden, the thing I was going through this at the time is I would rather people see it's possible to walk in forgiveness and that there's a way that it's possible in the face of such evil that it's possible to live like this.
Right.
That we're not just out here saying you can, but that we do.
Right.
So yeah, that night was tough. I wake up the next morning and I call the dude she was sleeping with, and I just tell him, "Hey, dude, I just want you to know I forgive you. I love you. I would call you to repentance." I said, "I pray that I used to be very much in that same state. But I just want you to know I forgive you and I love you, and I you're obviously not going to see my wife anymore, but you know, like, I just want you to know that, you know, I forgive you, whether that means anything to you or not. Like, that's it.
Did he say anything?
Yeah, it was really weird, to be honest with you. He was like, yeah, man. He's like, I know those things are tough. If you ever want to talk to me about it or anything, like you ever want, like, need someone to talk to, I'm like, there's a temptation for me right now to just beat the crap out of you. I said, so I'm not going to put myself in any temptation.
Did you say that?
No. That was temptation. I probably would have got my butt kicked. But anyways, yeah. So like, I was like, yeah, cool, man. Like, whatever. Like, you're not going to see my wife anymore. Have a nice life, basically. So yeah, that happened. Took care of that. And basically just asked him, like, you know, do I have anything to worry about, like, health wise? He's like, no, we're good. So move forward with that. At this point, man, the family's just wrecked because obviously, you know, Braden's family are pastors, and sometimes, not saying this isn't point, but when you're a pastor, so you have to uphold a certain persona.
Sure.
It's more judgmental, I would say, when a pastor's family is acting out than maybe a congregation member. So at this point, they're just wrecked, dude. I mean, I think they felt a lot of shame that what was going on. Just to see their daughter just do what she did just because she wanted to, I think brought a lot of shame. And I told them, like, guys, Brianna chose to do this. Brianna chose to do what she did. This isn't on you guys, like, no more than it's on me. I'm her husband. I could accept the blame too. But we understand, like, Brianna chose to do these things. That's what she wanted to do. So yeah, I go to Chick-fil-A the next day to return whatever her work stuff, and Braden comes with me because I am scratched from just head to toe. Actually, it looks like a cat just mauled me. That was just like, you know, so we had someone who said, like, you know, this did happen and whatnot. So that week, it's really hard, Rich, to see someone you love desire someone else so much.
Sure.
Imagine being infatuated, like when you were first started dating, and you get to be with a person who's your spouse, feel that way about someone else.
Yeah.
Because there's an emotional and there's a physical connection now that's been established between my wife and another man. And so, like, she couldn't do anything, in fairness, but, you know, she behaved for a week, said, yeah, I'll come back, you know, we'll do this right. So for a whole week, basically, she pouted around the house and was, like, heartbroken because her boyfriend was there and she wanted to be with him so bad, which is really difficult for me to witness. Not that really changed. Like, you know, you can feel a lot of different things. It's what you choose to live by that decides how you walk it out. So I'm still going to work, man. I'm still ministering the gospel. I'm still, like, just having, like, I'm alive in freedom, man. I'm out here talking to you about Jesus. I'm out there. Like, they don't know anything about what's going on in life. Not that they needed to. It was just like, you know, I'm just doing what I'm doing. Then I kind of come home and, you know, kind of just deal with that aftermath.
Mm-hmm. So,
yeah, we got that whole week. So that Saturday, I believe, we're there and it's kind of all over again, man. She leaves. She takes the keys to her car. She takes off her wedding ring and throws it at me and says, I hate you. I don't want to be with you. I hate you. Basically, you know, your key word here, what she said is, you're too much like Jesus and I can't stand that.
Okay, we're going to take a real quick break and I'm going to bring on my brother, Nicholas. Nicholas, quick question for you, my guy. How long have you been rocking with the good gospel?
It has been almost 4 years now.
Almost 4 years
of my life.
Best for what kind of impact would you say, you know, that the gospel has had on your life?
I mean, if I had to quantify, I'd probably say total impact on my life.
A total impact? You want to add anything to that? Just
yeah, no, it's changed just the way I'm able to love people. I thought that I loved people before. Turns out I didn't. I didn't do it out of love. It was just all lack. And now I'm able to love just freely. from abundance, and it changes the game.
It's a game changer. Let me ask you this. You have decided to give of your time, your resources, your finances to keep this message that you are free from and dead to sin moving forward into 2024. Why is that important to you?
Because it's a game changer. I don't think people realize, because we think we know. We think we know the gospel. But a lot of times, most of the time, in my experience, you don't know it until you know it.
Have you ever ran into someone who's like, I know the gospel, and then you're like, so like Romans 6, and they're like, oh yeah, we're free from and dead to sin?
Never.
I haven't.
That's never happened to me before. But it would be incredible. I would be so stoked. But I think, especially this podcast, in my opinion, the power of testimony, of telling your story and your experience, that has touched so many people's lives that I just want to further that as much as we can. That's why we're here. God can do it on his own, but he wants to do it through us. And this is the best way that I've found out.
Yeah, he doesn't need us, and yet the work is out there.
Yeah,
it's the laborers that are few. So if you want to partner with us going forward into the future, go to lovereality.org/give. That's lovereality.org/give, and partner with us. Like, here's the thing. We're not going to stop. We don't want to stop. And every dollar donated goes forward into getting these stories out there. So yeah, we would love if you did that. And man, thanks a lot, Nicholas.
Thank you.
Yeah, man.
So that's like a backhanded compliment, I guess.
Yeah.
She's like, I just can't stand it. So she left and she went to her work, but her sister found out where she was going. So I show up out of her work, and her sister, you met Brooke, haven't you?
Mm-hmm.
She walks in there, man. Brooke's pregnant. Keep that in mind. She walks in there and she starts yelling at the staff right there in the front. Bring out this guy. Bring him out here. And so obviously the managers say, no, you have to leave. So they make her escort her out the building. I still don't know where my wife is at this point. So she leaves the building. I show up. I talk to the managers. I'm like, hey guys, I'm sorry. I was like, I didn't want necessarily this to happen. I know this isn't fair to you guys. Like, you guys have nothing to do with this. This is Dirk's doing, but I said, I'm sorry. We'll just leave the property. So, just try to play basically, get everyone to calm down. Mm-hmm. So they calm down. Still don't know where Brianna is. I told Brianna that, either tell us where you are, or we're going to call Verizon and they're going to tell us where you are. And we're going to call the police because no one knows where you're at and no one knows what you're doing, and you're kind of acting a little crazy right now. So I'll leave that. So you told us where we are, and it was like the Fast and Furious of normal modern day cars. Like, there's like 6 of our cars, me, Braden, Elijah, Brooke, Keith, myself. And so she's in like the parking lot. So like we whip our cars like down the road there, and like, I don't want to say surround her car, but kind of like get around the car. And Brooke, her sister gets there before me, and I see her hit her in the stomach and then hit her in the face. And I'm going to be honest, Rick. That was needed. It was like Brooke's the one who did it. It was like, so I get in between them. I say, stop it. Like, cut it out. So then Bree starts hitting me. They're like, she's hitting me. So I just, whatever, take her down again, gently, of course. And so we just kind of hold her there until she's kind of under control. How the police aren't called at this point, I really don't know, because we had like a crowd of, it was outside of Target. So we have a crowd of people from Target just watching this go down, man. But it is like 5 guys. So, I mean, and like a couple girls. But so they're watching this all happen. So we're like, we need to get out of here. Like, Brianna, like, who do you want to go to? And he said, do you want to go with Brooke or do you want to go with Braden? She goes, Braden. So go back. At this point, man, it's just like, at this point, I'm so just mentally exhausted. Like, just with this whole situation. I mean, I'm just tired. I think is the best word I can describe it. So I'm just tired. So we're there, and we moved to a different, like, we go back home basically, and whatever. Raiden reads Brianna. Brianna has always related to Romans 7, like I think we all can do in some regard. Is I do what I don't want to do, but I do it anyways. Like that specific bed, she's always felt like that described herself. So whatever, Braden like talked to her about that and whatnot, and so yeah, I mean, so everyone went home and we went to bed, and I went to work the next morning. So that was that whole, like, I guess week experience.
You weren't trying to change her at this point. You were just like,
no,
there's
I
something
was
going on, and I need her to see some truth, or what was the mindset? Just
it's not that we give up, but I could tell that she had rejected it. She had heard it, she rejected it, she wasn't accepting it. And you can't force someone to accept something. Either they just for some reason cannot comprehend, but it takes a softening of the heart by God in order for someone to even receive it. And her heart was so hard that she just was rejecting it. Like, that's the only way I can describe it, is you recognize when people get to a certain point, and it's just, you have to basically, at this point, I've tried in my own works everything I can to try and show her the gospel and show the gospel. And at that point, Rich, the more you try to work to try and get that to happen, the more frustrated you're going to get.
Yeah.
Because it takes an act of God in order to even bring that in.
Mm-hmm.
So at that point, I was like, well, you know what? Like, I love her. I'm going to keep on loving her. I'm not going to change the way I treat her or anything, not how I live. I'm going to do what's right because I'm a righteous man. And I'm like, well, we'll just see where it goes, I suppose. And so, like, I'm obviously praying for her, trying to, like, not even trying. I just say at that point, I was like, well, we'll see where this goes, God. Like, because I told her I'm not signing the divorce papers. I was like, good luck. I'm just not going to do it. I said, if you drag us into court, I'm not a lawyer, but I said, I don't know what you're going to try and say was your terms for divorce. I was like, I'm not doing anything. So we're doing that, and it goes a bit. It goes for a little bit. And at that point, she's good, is the way I would describe it. She's good. You can tell when someone, that light bulb hits. The light bulb had never hit.
Mm-hmm.
But I knew that she was good. Might have just merely been because of the consequences she suffered.
Mm-hmm.
But regardless, I was just happy at that point that, we weren't on
like
crazy.
Enough time had passed and things had calmed down, and she was just kind of living life.
Yeah, things would calm down. We were just kind of living life. So yeah, I mean, things living life. Sometimes, without making a whole doctrine about this, when Christ says, a prophet's not welcome in his own home, and very few believed him when he came into his hometown. Sometimes I do think it is harder to receive from people that are closest to you. Like,
for sure it is.
Your spouse, or your family, because you see them as peers, I think sometimes. But so things are going good, and then we go to that little, like, love reality thing that Brady and Savannah had down there, and we start talking to you. My wife could speak freedom.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know how much she accepted or didn't accept it within her heart. That's not really for me to judge. I just don't know. And so whatever, she starts talking to you, and I see this guy with a backwards hat, and I'm like, this guy's a Chiefs fan. I'm like, you gotta be careful, dog. Be careful with this guy. And so she's talking to him, you remember we had that nice little conversation or whatnot, and she kind of just like gives you like a portion of our testimony or whatnot. So yeah, and then for some reason when she talked to you, she seemed to necessarily receive better from you, I guess is probably the better word I can even articulate for that.
We'll have to hear how she describes this. We'll have to hear her part of that.
Yeah. So
as you're watching that, as you're seeing what's going on, because we have this conversation, and Friday night when we got there, I was like, because I think Braden called me the week it was going on, and he's like, man, pray for my sister. And I'm like, for sure, dude. And I'm like, he's giving me some of the background of the story, but I don't really comprehend everything that's going on. I'm just like, yeah. And so we were praying. And then when I get there, I'm like, I hadn't heard from Braden. I didn't know what had happened at all. I was like, I don't know if she's still like gone or if she's still there. And I didn't even know what she looked like. And so when I'm meeting all these people, I'm like, is one of these people one of the sisters that Braden's talking about? And then Friday night, I realized, oh, it's this one. She's the one. And so I was looking at her, and I don't do very well when I'm preaching to make eye contact. People tell me all the time, like, you need to make more eye contact, because I just don't. But I was with her because I'm like, my heart was just for her. Like, I want her to understand this thing. Afterwards, wanted to talk to her about it, and I couldn't. But then we have this conversation the next day, and that's where I kind of talked to you for the first time. Like Friday night, I didn't really talk to you. And then Saturday, I'm like, oh, okay, man, this guy. And you just blew me away with your energy and your commitment. And you start talking. And I think this is where I want to get to. And we'll let Brianna have her own side of the story. When I was talking to you and I'm seeing how you're able to live your life, and you've mentioned it so far, like you were completely sold out. Just completely sold out. Like there's no, like you burned the ships. There's no going back. And do you remember how you described it to me? You've kind of said it a little bit right now, but how you're like, no, man, there's no, like, this is my life.
There is simply the one option. Like half the problem I feel like with sometimes when speaking about specifically about the subject of sin is like, you go steal something, you're free from sin. Like, what does someone who's maybe not necessarily, like, what's their initial response? But we always said, but we will. If you take on that mentality for anything, there is no, but you could know. I consider the life that I had dead. I'm sold out, man. There is no option for me. Like, when I look at the standard, I've suffered some, but Christ set a standards so that no one can say, oh, I've suffered more than Christ. I can look to Christ and be like, that is my example. I mean, these people he loved, his chosen people, the Jews, he loved them. He went to them first. They mocked him, rejected them, killed them. I mean, if anyone brings up a case where they've been mistreated, I got a pretty good example that I think we can bring up is Christ. And he said, follow me. And so what can I say? We know from church history, I believe it's Peter was crucified upside down. And the reason church history gives for that is he said, I myself don't want to be held, like, I don't want to be crucified the normal way because I'm not worthy of that standard in that sense of, like, I don't want people to set that standard as me. So he rejected it. And for me to just have that example that set so firm, man, is just like, there's no option, man. Like, there is no yes and no. There's only yes. There's only yes, Lord. And that's a believer, like, yes, God loves you. Yes, these things are true. But is Christ Lord? Do you love him? Look what he brought me from. When you realize that where you were, I mean, it's hard for me to go, well, that happened to me, so I guess I shouldn't do this. Like, or I'm to justify any other response except for what is Christ.
Yeah.
I mean,
yeah. And I think this is where we're going to wrap up because I don't want to step on Brianna's story, but how is it, like, there's only one way that it's possible for you to live like this. And that's because you've been really, really loved. This is not your discipline. While maybe you do have discipline, it's not because you're disciplined that you're living like this. It's because you're loved that you're living disciplined. Right.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So as you look back on all of this, and I'll give a little spoiler alert. Y'all are still married.
We are still married.
Spoiler alert. And I think the next part of the story is going to be just as beautiful. But as you look back to this kid who was rebellious, could not submit himself to God's law, Indeed, he could not. If you could go back to this kid where he's participating in this thing and it's wrecking him from the inside out and he doesn't know how to get out of it. If you could just put your arm around this kid and say a few words to him, if it wasn't Braden talking to him, if it was you talking to him now, what would you tell this kid?
Probably would have, what would I have told him? Question caught me off guard. I would probably just, encourage him, that to live for Christ, to die as gain, to keep that mentality of a soldier-like mentality that we're instructed to keep, which is that I'm going to do this. I'm going, like, to reckon oneself totally dead to sin, not partially dead to sin, kind of dead to sin, but I might sin, dead to sin, alive to Christ, because you've been baptized into Christ's death with the body of sin, and that's been put to death, and you've been raised to life, and to push me towards that direction.
Man. Well, I know this is kind of like a little bit of a cliffhanger as we end this episode, but like I said, man, your life lived, even as a Cincinnati Bengals fan.
I want to talk about it.
Your life lived has been such a blessing and a testimony to me to see how you've lived, and I think in the next episode or two where we hear Brianna's story, I think it'll come full circle. But thank you for your faithfulness to his faithfulness, man, because it truly is a testimony and a blessing to so many people. And hearing the story is just affirmation that you've been really, really loved and you're moving from that love. So thank you, my friend.
Absolutely.
Man, I know we kind of left off on a cliffhanger here, but I think this, when you hear Brianna's story, it's going to be so beautiful. But listen, if you're in a place where Josh was, where you're participating in sin and you know it's wrong and yet you can't get out of it, this prayer is for you. Father in heaven, thank you that you have made me this thing. You present me wholly blameless and above reproach to the Father. And Father, my life hasn't been reflecting that. But thank you that you have freed me from sin and you have put this in my heart to hide your law in my heart that I can walk according to it. And so, Father, thank you. I believe it. I receive it. And I'm going to focus on how clean I am. And I'm going to put to death that old thing. Like, since I am dead to sin, I'm going to put away its actions and walk in the light as you are in the light. Thank you for this. In Jesus' name, amen. Yeah, want to make sure to invite you to be a part of our gospel community online. The Facebook group is, I think, a Love Reality gospel community. Check that out. So much encouragement on there all the time. Love y'all. Appreciate y'all. We'll catch y'all on the next one.